Now Auburn, they've been attacking the portal. There's no way around it, man. They have a top 10 portal class in this 2024 cycle. That includes the winter. But in the spring portal, they landed KeAndre Lambert-Smith yesterday, the wide receiver from Penn State, who's explosive as all get out. That makes 4 transfer portal wins for Auburn in 4 days. They're on a heater. They are portaling like a program, is what we say on this show. So how are they doing it? We'll talk about it right now, but make sure you're dialed in right here. Make sure you're subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. This show, The Hard Count, live not once, not twice, but 3 times a week, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Listen, if you're watching a college football show during the month of April, you're a little bit of a sicko, all right? Let's just be real about it. We're a little bit of a sicko as well because we talk about it during April. So the bottom line here is we're kind of one and the same. Would love to have you all a part of this community. So when Auburn is making these kind of wins on the transfer portal recruiting trail, the question everyone has when you have success at the talent acquisition level is why? Why is that happening? What are they doing to make it happen? And I think it's also important for us to validate the quality of player that Auburn is landing through the portal. They landed 3 defensive linemen and KeAndre Lambert-Smith, who I think is going to change that offense, which we'll talk about here in a second. Personally, I think a good rule of thumb is gauge your quality of player you're adding by nature of who else wants to add them with you. Like when you have teams in the mix like a Florida State, like a USC, that also want that same player, that should be validating that staff also believes that the player you're after is a pretty darn good player. Now, some evals are a little bit harder to make than others, but Philip Bleedy, if LSU wanted him, Brian Kelly and that staff, I promise you, they had done their homework and they were going to be after his services because he's a good player. Auburn lands him. Transfer defensive lineman from Indiana. KeAndre Lambert-Smith, A&M was in the mix there at the very end. Florida State came up at one point in time. USC came up at one point in time for him. These are not just leftovers, okay? They're not just collecting the scraps from the transfer portal. They're going out and adding some of the best available and winning these recruiting battles for these top players to go and win in 2024. So going back to the original question, why is this happening? I think there's a couple of stable factors when you look at this thing. The first is I believe they're playing ball at the NIL level. Like, let's not call it, let's not beat around the bush. Let's call a spade here, man. The care factor in Auburn, Alabama is strong enough, and I think it is attractive enough to land some of these guys. Because in all of these transfer portal recruitments, much less high school recruitments, NIL is a factor. And Auburn is saying, we understand that. We're going to meet what you are looking for, or at least be in that range. Come on, man. And again, the care factor of a place like Auburn, I think, is going to stand the test of time. Like, I don't think it's a thing where if Auburn goes out and has a 500 season next year, you're going to see people say, well, you know what, I'm putting my money somewhere else. No, people are bought into Auburn, believe they're bought into Hugh Freeze, and that's going to continue to pay dividends on the talent acquisition and roster building side of things for that coaching staff and for that program. Here's arguably the more impactful part of this for Auburn. I think people are seeing the trajectory of what Hugh Freeze is building out there on the plains, and they want to go be a part of it. They see where that thing is heading. They're like, hey, I want to go get on that rocket ship before it takes off. I want to get on that train before it leaves the station. Because you see, you got a coach who has won everywhere he's been, including the SEC and Hugh Freeze. You already have a talented roster that's there. They portaled in 21 transfers from last year. I understand not all those guys are still there, but the talent nucleus in-house at Auburn, I believe, is strong enough to win. And you saw that last year during the season. People saw them play Georgia down to the final drive. People saw them take Alabama to a 4th and 31, needed a miracle play to beat them. People see the beginnings of what Hugh Freeze is putting together there. And so when you see trajectory plus the proper resources to bring those guys in and be a part of that roster, that's dangerous. That is dangerous for the rest of college football. People see the paws on Auburn. Like you talk about dogs when they're puppies, and if you see big paws, it usually means they're going to grow into being a pretty beast of a dog. That's Auburn right now, man. Did they get it done the way they wanted to last year? No. The New Mexico State game was, I'm sure, embarrassing for everyone involved. The Alabama game, you hate seeing that happen. The Georgia game, you're like, gosh, we're so close. Why can't we put it together? But you see the big pause. If that's year 1 for Hugh Freeze, what's year 3 going to be like? What's year 5 going to be like? I think it's also worth noting when you step on campus at Auburn, when you step in that Walto's facility, which is brand spanking new, $92 million, we got a tour, and it was absolutely unbelievable. The way that it feels at Auburn, just quite frankly, is big time. It feels big time. If I'm a player being recruited and I step in that facility and I talk to that staff and I see the way they do things, the practices that they have in place, the operations they have in place, it makes me feel like, okay, this is a professional outfit that is doing things the right way, that is not skipping any steps to get to where they want to go, and they are acting how they want to be viewed, and they're acting how they want to achieve. Does that make sense? You gotta act in a first-class way if you want to get first-class results. And that's what Auburn's doing right now. It's not just the players, too. We talked about players that had options that ended up picking Auburn over other schools in the SEC or other elite institutions. DJ Durkin, he was at A&M. It's an SEC school. They had a good defense. He chose to go to Auburn. He chose to follow Hugh Freeze. Coach Nick's at Ole Miss. I understand there was a bit of a promotion there, it sounds like, from what he was doing at Ole Miss to what he is potentially doing at Auburn, if you're reading between the lines there. He was at an SEC school. He was at a school that just won a New Year's Six Bowl game last year. Wants to be a part of what Auburn's doing. And I'm not saying that money isn't involved here for some of these guys. I'm sure that it is. But at the end of the day, man, the trajectory of Auburn, I believe, is massively attractive to everyone that has an opportunity to join their roster or join their staff. And so now for 2024, I think the feeling within that fan base is, why not us? Like, why can't we go out and get it done in 2024? And what does get it done look like? Is that 10 wins? Is that an SEC championship? I think it's all based on your expectations. I think somewhere in that 9-win range would be a phenomenal pop of a season for year 2 for Hugh Freeze after winning 6 games the year before. But you got Peyton Thorne from the portal last year. He now has, I believe, a better offensive direction with Hugh Freeze. He now has KeAndre Lambert-Smith and Cam Coleman, so there's weapons to throw the football to. You have a stocked backfield with Jarquez Hunter. Also, on top of that, you got some more time now under your belt in the SEC. You know what you're getting into. You know what this whole thing is going to be. You know what you signed up for. So the thing for Auburn in 2024, what I think is the ultimate hinge point for success, and it's no secret, it is Peyton Thorne. It is what he ends up doing here, because I just mentioned all those pieces. You still got to have the glue to put the project together, right? You can have the best poster board in the world. You can have the best pictures printed out. But if you're not able to put those things together, you're getting an F on the project, brother. You're not going to be able to do anything with those great pieces. So I'm excited to watch how that comes together. I think Peyton Thorne, just full transparency, I think he will take a massive step forward from where he was last year for the reasons I just mentioned. And I think Auburn, that trajectory, brother, it's sounding like a sketch. That trajectory, brother, it is, I believe it's headed the right direction. I can't wait to see what it ends up being. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.